Hey mamas, this is Playfully Faithful Parenting, and I'm your host, Joy Wendling. I'm a seminary grad and children's and family minister turned stay-at-home mom to my 5 girls. Spiritual parenting is my calling, and it's my passion to help other mamas disciple their kids using the power of play and their own authentic daily walk with Christ. If you're a mama who wants to introduce your kids to Jesus and watch as the Holy Spirit transforms their lives, this is the place for you. I'm so glad you're here. So let's dive in and see how we can partner with God today. Hello, mamas. This is Joy, your host of Playfully Faithful Parenting. We are in episode 67. Wow. Thank you for sticking with me and making this podcast so worth it. We are closing up the month of May and our 4-part series, Parenting for Faith, 5 key tools for raising God-connected children. And so today we're talking about surfing the wave. Our other tools were, the first week we talked about creating windows and framing our faith and what a life with Jesus looks like for our kids. The next week we talked about unwinding, which is figuring out where your kids' view of God is not accurate and helping to correct it into a more balanced view of God in a very gentle and not shaming or condemning way. Last week, we talked about chatting and catching with God, and still that the teaching of parenting for faith on catching, on hearing from God is still one of the most incredible discipleship tools that I have found. Not only for my kids, but for myself as well. And then today we are talking about surfing the waves. And so surfing the waves is really a tool that we have to use with the rest of. It's not one that really should just be used on its own. It works best with the other 4 tools. And so what surfing the waves is looking for your kids' interest in God and faith and serving and the church, and what are those things that your kids are drawn to? What are they asking questions about? And those are the waves of your child's faith. And so I love this. This is such a fun chapter in Parenting Children for a Life of Faith, Helping Children Meet and Know God, the Omnibus edition by Rachel Turner. And this is kind of her main text on understanding their tools, their methods. And so this chapter, she takes this symbolism of surfing the waves like all the way. And so she teaches us 4 lessons from surfing. And when we use that, when we use those 4 lessons from like surfers out in the ocean, then we can help to know when we can jump in on our kids' faith and where are the places that we need to come alongside our kids and help them to dive a little deeper. So we're going to go over these 4 lessons from surfing because it's so good. And I'm just so passionate about their methods. And that's why I'm getting the certification in their program to be able to use as I walk with moms and parents discipling their kids. And it helps me and my own parenting, it also helps me come alongside church leaders and help church leaders to come alongside families. And so I have been doing lots of trainings with children's ministry and family ministry leaders over the last 6 months, and it has been really awesome. And I know some of you listening are both moms and church leaders. Some of you might just be church leaders. And so if there are ways that I can help you to bring this material to your families in your church, I would love to do that as well. Reach out. So here are the 4 lessons from surfers. The first one is not every wave is your wave. So I think about my daughter. My oldest daughter loves that. I don't know the name of the movie. It's the Bethany Hamilton movie about her shark attack and her recovery from that. And so my daughter loves that movie. And so when I read this chapter and talk about that's what I think about. And you see Bethany Hamilton, her character, or the person playing her, waiting for certain waves. And so that's the image that I have. So one of the quotes says, "Surfers don't feel under pressure to catch every wave. They jump on the ones they can and they let others pass by." So I love this lesson because it is about grace and freedom. Like, you are going to miss some of the faith interests in your child, and that's okay. That's okay. There will be time when you're doing something else and your kid comes and asks you, a really great faith question, but because you are in the middle of making dinner or having a phone conversation or breaking up a fight between 2 of your other kids, you're not in the best place to answer that question. And so you're going to feel later, you're going to think about that and be like, I missed this opportunity. I missed this perfect opportunity to dive deep with my kid. And guess what? It's okay. There's going to be another wave. And so I just love, and I love that is the first lesson, is that there are going to be so many opportunities, and that we as parents who love Jesus and want our kids to love Jesus, we can let go of the pressure to have to catch every wave, every interest, every curiosity of our kids. The second lesson is see the waves in your child's life. And here she says, one of the most significant skills we can learn is how to spot a wave of our child's spiritual life coming. Identifying these waves, experience with our children, and knowledge of what the pattern of waves looks like in their lives. And so this is just about being an observer, being a student of your child. And some of the things, these aren't all of them, but some of the things that she suggests we look at are interest, curiosity, anger, like what makes your child angry? What annoys them about church? What do they not like, that happens? What injustices spark them in the world? Stories they act out. Are they, do they love playing superheroes and rescuing? Do they always want to be teacher? What are some of those stories? How do they pretend? And then just spontaneous, random ideas. So my daughter, my oldest, loves to plan the holiday church services at home. And so that's just kind of like this random thing that she loves to do. And that is an opportunity. That's a wave. And it comes around the bigger holidays. And that's okay. And it comes and it goes. And so we embrace that. And we at Christmas, we had our Christmas Eve service at home. She did a playlist. We all dressed up. We totally embraced this church service. We lit candles and stood when we were supposed to. And it was a really meaningful service. And so when we see these things in our kids, are they interested in reading biographies? Are they interested in a certain Bible story? Do they want to talk about giants or slingshots all the time? Are there things like that and see our patterns that stand out in life? So sometimes these can be really big and sometimes they might be super small. It may be a question, but they will happen daily and they will happen repeatedly. And so we just need to learn to recognize them. And sometimes we'll recognize them too late and it's past. Or sometimes it might be something that's so small that it's not worth making a big deal about it. And that was another time when we can go back to that first lesson of this may not be the wave that you need to surf. And that's okay. And just letting the grace and the freedom in that happen. All right. The third lesson is to paddle at the right speed. All right. Have you ever seen an interest in your kid? Like maybe they like one song from somebody or they learned a part of a Bible verse. And so then you jump in all the way. And so maybe they liked one woman of the Bible. And so then you're like, oh yes. Okay. They like the women of the Bible. So we're going to start and we're going to look at all the women. So we're going to start with Eve and then we're going to look at, Ruth and Naomi, and we're going to look at Esther, and then we're going to get to all the Marys, and we're just going to go for it all the way. Probably not a good idea for your kids. You have probably just totally overwhelmed your kid and they are no longer interested in the women of the Bible, right? So we need to be careful. Or maybe your kid is really interested and you just kind of ignore it thinking, oh, this one's not, this is not the right wave to catch. And so missed an opportunity because you were too slow and you didn't gain momentum. You weren't there at the right. And so this lesson is paddle at the right speed. And so if a surfer paddles too quickly, then they just miss the wave. They paddle out of the wave. They miss it. And they overshoot it. And then if they're too slow, then they don't catch it either. And they miss it that way. And the wave passes them by. And so surfers have to learn to not go too fast and not to go too slow, but to follow the pacing of the wave, to let the wave be our guide with how fast, how intense, how slow we take it. And so maybe you try something one day and like candles. So we had a season where my kids loved to light a Jesus candle. And so it started during Advent, and then they just loved it so much that we rode this wave and we kept going with the candle. Well, then it was over. And so we let them lead it. Now, if I wanted to try to reintroduce that candle and inviting Jesus back to our, symbolically through this candle to our meals, then maybe I could just put the candle on the table and not light it, or lay it out on the kitchen counter so that they see it. And whoever's setting the table, see if they put it on the table when it's, set next to the rest of the dishes that need to go out on the table. Or maybe I just introduce it one time and I see what happens after the one time. But I don't necessarily need to jump back in full force, out paddle my kids with this interest. I'm just seeing, is this still an interest? Is that something? And maybe they want to do it only on Sundays, and that's okay. But if I were to push it every day of the week, then I'm, missing the wave. Or maybe I never do it and I never pull that candle back out and I totally miss the wave that way too. So the line that I wanted to read to you from the book for this lesson: to catch the wave, all we need to do is come alongside them at the pace the child is moving. If they ask a question, answer it and ask another. If the conversation wanders, follow them. And so just letting the child be kind of the pace setter for that. All right, here is the fourth and final lesson from surfing. The wave lasts as long as it lasts. Again, this one is just about following your child and having grace. Here she says, all waves break eventually. Be prepared to let them go gracefully. You may love having some morning ritual with your child, but once they start fussing and they're bored with it, it is time to let that wave go. My oldest and I did Bible journaling together for a time. And then when it was time to let it go, it was time to let it go. And I could be sad because I enjoyed that time, but I can just, if I make her do that, then it really misses the point. And it's forced and it becomes more about a God smart thing, more Pharisaical, like about the laws, and it's legalistic. And so we really want to follow our kids. And when a wave is over, you can mourn it if it is something that you've really loved, but we're not going to force our kids to continue with that wave. It may come back around and it may not, and that's okay. But there will be other waves. And so we can also look for waves that are not specifically faith-based and tie those in to our discipleship. If your child loves clay or Play-Doh, then how can you bring Play-Doh into your discipleship? If your child loves a park, how can you bring discipleship to that park? If your child is really into baking, what can you do together to tie baking and discipleship together? And so it is really about finding the things that your kid is into and asking the Holy Spirit for wisdom in how to bring God and faith and discipleship together with their interest. And so that is surfing the waves. And so those have been our 5 key tools from Parenting for Faith. And I hope that these tools have been a blessing to you. If you want help understanding one of them better or wondering how to playfully use these tools, please send me an email or a DM. I'd love to chat with you about that. I do have a free consult that you can sign up for, and we can chat face-to-face over Zoom, or again, just send a message, and if it is not too complex of an answer, I will try to help you over. Next month is gonna look a little bit different. My daughter, my oldest, calls it Interview June, and so I've got a collection of some really great interviews, and I just am ready for you to hear them. And so every Monday in June, I will be releasing an interview. And there's some really, really great ones that you're not going to want to miss. I've got Yancey and Valerie Ellis and Dr. Milt Ecker, and one more that is in the works, so I'm not going to share the name quite yet. So Thursdays will continue being Theology Thursdays, and so I look forward to sharing with you on those days. But these guests have got some really wonderful wisdom to share with you about children's books, spiritual development, like different phases of spiritual development, and authentic worship with kids. And so it's going to be so good. And what a wonderful way to bring us into summer. So I will talk to you mamas next week. Have a great day. Bye. Hey mamas, this is a little PS. As I was editing this episode, I realized that my tool of adding play to faith and add faith to play is really one way of surfing the waves. It is about finding those playful interests. What is our child already doing? How are they already playing that we can then come alongside them and add some faith aspects to that? And then what are the playful things that they enjoy that we can then bring to our discipleship? And so just thought that was a important little thing to note, that for those of you who have been listening to this podcast for a long time, you may have heard me say before, add faith to play and add play to faith. Well, that again is just one way of surfing the waves of our child's interests. All right. I just wanted to add that little bit. Now, your turn to play today is just be a student of your child and add some play to their faith and add some faith to their play. Have a great day, mamas. Bye. Well, mamas, that's it for today. Thanks for joining me on Playfully Faithful Parenting. I'd love to keep the conversation going over on the socials. You can find me on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. If you felt encouraged or equipped by today's show, do me a favor and leave a review. I can't wait to hear your story. Till next week, keep playing and pointing those littles to Christ.